Never before in all our history have
these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Yes, Washington, you are going to start doing this afternoon to the needs of working families for this class, not just the billionaire class. We know what's going on. Pay attention.
Good morning, everybody. It is the end of the corporate age, maybe the beginning of a more fascist one. Actually, totally the beginning of a more fascist one is what's going on today. We'll talk about that. But we actually have some pretty exciting, good stuff to talk about with Adriel Hampton, who's with us today. Thank you for joining us, Adriel. It is also Adriel's birthday, so everybody shout out for that.
Happy birthday, Adriel.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm accepting birthday donations at theleftyleague.org.
I saw you post something about the Lefty League. What's going on with that? I saw.
Well, it's still happening. I actually Q3. My goal is to make it, one of the main things that I do. I'm thinking about. I just put up a poll. You'll have to take it. Everyone in the Bernie 2016 TV Uphill Media community on Twitter, and it's. Do you know that there are open cannabis users running for Congress and, both House and Senate? And I think that not only should you have political efforts that support people running for legalization, but you should support the people who are brave enough to run for office, while publicly consuming one of the best substances that the earth has ever produced.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, sir. And I know that you and I are both very outspoken in our cannabis use. And,
I don't post it for the in-laws on Facebook, but
no. Do your in-laws still watch? Do your in-laws still look at your stuff on Facebook? Mine have all stopped. They don't.
I have a baby, so they definitely do.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you do post.
And I'm not actually married yet, so they're probably waiting to see, are there any more updates about that?
Right.
But no, so those things are going well, and you started out on a slightly negative bent. I still think that we can win, and that's why I do things like what we've just done with Mike Revell. That's why I do things like the Lefty League. I share the fear and concern over the quickening slide into fascism. We already have a corporate state. Which is the ripe conditions for that. But we still have our voices. We still have Twitter, even though Nancy Pelosi wants us to stop using it. And so I think that there's still hope. We still have plenty of people who are willing to go into the streets and even to go head to head with fascists when they invade Portland. And I'm, really proud of so many people who are continuing to fight in doing things like bringing together a community around this show to talk about what's happening, to talk about how we can fight back is part of the solution.
Awesome. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because I'm certainly down on it today after watching Pence's insane lack of any concern, really.
Well, it's the problem is that you have people who lack basic empathy. And that's a big part of the population. That's something that, it explains the left-right divide in every country. It's not like there's a totally different set of politics ever. It's the people with empathy and the people who are really out for themselves in every country, in every place, in every community. And we now have some pretty psychopathic people right at the top in the U.S. government catering to the people without empathy and catering to people's basest fears. And it is extremely troubling. I mean, Pence, he just needs the hat,
Right. Yeah, it's really frightening. And I think what makes it worse for me is the fact that he bears the Christian moniker proudly. And I'm like, do you not see a conflict?
When fascism comes to America, it'll be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross, right? Who was that?
Right.
I don't know who said it, but they were right. Yeah, it's good. By the way, I rudely forgot to mention that we have Amos with us today as well. We've got Amos here. Thank you for joining us.
Amos on the green screen.
We can't. He has a really cool background, but for some reason it no longer works in Zoom. We don't know. Something happened there. But anyway, thank you for being here, Amos. He will be talking about climate change and mass extinction die-offs, because those are going on too. We got Nazi problems and we got the climate crisis.
We got all the fun issues.
That's right. That's right. We will talk more about Nazis and fascism later, because I got put in Twitter jail on the Bernie TV Twitter for calling for attacks on ICE, and we'll talk about that later on. But right now, I want Laura and Adriel to talk about Mike Revell and the success there and what happened. And so tell us, Adriel, here's my question. If those of you who don't know, Mike Revell made it with Adriel and many other people's our help, right? I've got a lot of rolling papers coming my way, man.
I got a lot of them sitting on my desk right now. I'm going to have to smoke so much, so many joints. It's not the most efficient way to smoke, but it is fun when you've got Mike Revell rolling papers.
I'm an old school guy, so I love it. It's like, a campaign. What'd you get from Bernie? I have a bumper sticker. What'd you get from Revell? I can't show you. I smoked them all.
There were Bernie rolling papers, but they were unofficial. I remember going at Chrissy Field.
Yes, I bought some there. I bought some there too. They were great. Feel the burn. Burn for Bernie. They were great.
Yeah, if people haven't seen, this is Mike Revell. These are rolling papers for tobacco only. Send Henry Kissinger to thehague.com.
Yeah.
It's got I like Mike, like the I like Ike. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, it says, these were only issued on 420. The new ones are different.
Right.
The new ones say, when they get low, we get high. So I totally have to order them before. Order your when they go low, we get high rolling papers from Mike Revell, because the more we order, the cheaper they are, and the more donor money we have to fight the DNC and celebrate in Flint with local charities. So, and it says Pentagon Papers, cut military spending in half in the war on drugs.
Yeah.
And, the Mike Revell campaign, if you want to learn more about it, MikeRevell.org. But amazing campaign run by 3 teenagers in New York with an 89-year-old former Alaska senator. Mm-hmm. And we just yesterday we hit 65,000 donations, which is the qualifying amounts of donations you need to qualify for the DNC's debate rules. It's kind of insane that we let giant media corporations and political corporations decide which candidates get to debate for a election that's paid for by American taxpayers, but that's how we do it right now. Right. It's very strange. It seems a little bit like corporate fascism, actually. So. But we've hit the 65,000 donation qualification. It was a nice happy birthday this morning to open my email and see an email from Aaron Hill, who's the founder of Act Blue, which is the fundraising infrastructure online for Democrats. Saying yes, the Revell campaign has certified. It's on DNC letterhead.
Oh, nice.
Says 65,000 donations from more than 200 people in more than 20 states. And in fact, there's a lot more than that. Our average donation was very close to 420, but I think too many people bought T-shirts and it wrecked the spread. Actually, no. What's ridiculous? I think it's lower now. I think it's lower than 420. Maybe more people need to buy T-shirts.
Yes, there you go. So tell us what else though that Mike needs to do to qualify for the debates. Because I think the donors was only one.
Right. So I think that we have an attorney who's someone I recommended the campaign. I've worked with for many years, who's very familiar with DC politics, and he's also a progressive online fundraiser. He's started and advised a few companies, and I think that he's a great ally to have as we figure out what to do next exactly. There's a lot of discussion going on right now. Qualifying for the debates is only one step because, as we know, there are so many candidates. And right now, I think there are about 24 candidates competing for that second debate for a spot, for one of the 20 spots the DNC says it will give. One, I think there's a really significant argument that the donor qualification is the more serious one. Mm-hmm. If the DNC wants to play around and say that it's 1% polls, which is, the margin of error on these polls is 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to show us how they're going to count the 59% of DNC approved polls that left out Mike Revell, despite the fact that our campaign communicated clearly with those pollsters that we were running and to qualify for a spot in the debate. So the process has been very clearly rigged, if not by the DNC, CNN, MSNBC, then by the pollsters. And we'll see what happens. I think they should let Mike pull up a chair and point his cane at Joe Biden and call him an imperialist with blood on his hands.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
I do have marked a clip from the live stream that he did with the teens yesterday, starting with talking about the transparency of government, obviously, and it includes the bit where the teens learn about the DM that comes from Bernie Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to show, and Mike is on fine form, and he ends with a very good soundbite from him. But I really wanted people to get a sense of who the teens are that are working with him. So if we've got that, as soon as we got that ready.
Ready to go. Here we go.
Okay, let's go.
Democracy survives. It doesn't survive as a result of all the secrecy in government. It survives because the people are informed as to what their government is doing and then can have their views felt in that regard. My plan on the legislature of people even is a step further. Not only are they going to be informed in the process of this legislative process, but they will also have an opportunity to make fundamental changes on an ongoing basis.
Another thing from the Twitch on the matter of getting questions from the crowd and democracy. What do you plan to do to help end homelessness?
To what?
Help end homelessness.
Oh my God, it's immoral. It's when you walk down the street. I was some months ago in Los Angeles, in 2 blocks of persons.
Senator, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Bernie Sanders just DM'd me.
What?
Bernie Sanders just direct messaged him on Twitter.
Oh, okay. What did he say?
Well, he said that it's his communications director, and so his communications director DM'd Dave. Okay, well, it's cool. It's cool seeing DM from Bernie Sanders. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yes, it is. No argument there.
Talking about homelessness here. Come on.
We'll tell Bernie that we'll be able to get his agenda entirely enacted by the people being empowered to make laws.
Woo! That's what I like to hear. I actually want to maybe pivot a little bit to another super important issue of the campaign, which is the architects of American foreign policy who are war criminals and deserve to go to The Hague. So your thoughts on that?
Well, I would help drive the car to get him to The Hague or put him on the boat. But we're talking about, former presidents. We're talking about Dick Cheney and the entire...
You're going to need a bus, Mike.
Who engineered the war
Many buses.
in Iraq. There's no
Neocon Air.
And the thing that was very discouraging to me is when Obama first got elected, and they said, well, we ought to go after these people legally. He says, no, we don't look back. Well, I'll tell you, if you don't look back, you repeat what was there. Hegel has a great statement, and let's make sure I get it right, is that what we learn from history is what we didn't learn from history. Okay, got it?
That's the end of the clip.
For sure.
All right.
Isn't that a good? What we learn from history is what we didn't learn from history. That's classic. Anyway, so that's Revell and the teens. So what's anything you want to share about what next steps are for the campaign that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of strategic discussions going on now, and there's a lot of different plans. Mm-hmm. Everything from if they shut us out, like what if this is my idea, we'll see if my ideas don't always prevail. It's very fun being a senior advisor. I was a senior advisor at 40, now 41, as
nice to say
12 hours ago or whatever. And there's so many plans. Like yesterday, it was like impossible because there were so many Slack messages and, going back and forth as we were.
Uh-oh.
All right.
I hear some kind of other background noise. Sorry.
Oh.
Let me make sure it's not on my end. Okay. So CNN, right? If CNN keeps us out of the debates because the DNC says that we can't debate, which could happen, right? It could happen. There's 24 candidates competing for 20 slots. How about then we, one of my monitors decided to pick up the sound. I apologize. One of my monitors. That's how we do it on Mike Revell's campaign. So CNN holds this debate in Detroit. Well, what if there was a giant 2-day music and politics festival to raise money for Flint and other disadvantaged communities in Michigan? What if that was broadcast for 2 nights at the same time as the CNN debate by Fox News? I think it's time to start playing hardball with these assholes. That's actually what I think.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So let's look back. I was watching all this happen this week with getting Revell.
Oh, and I should say that the nicer thing, good Adriel says, Tom Perez, pick up the phone and call Senator Mike Revell and talk to him about getting on that debate stage and how they're going to accommodate an 89-year-old former 2-term senator from Alaska.
Right. Exactly. So last weekend, the teens were talking about the campaign winding down and deciding where to send the money. And I think you jumped in and said, this is not the time to mourn. This is the time to
organize.
To organize.
I said get dunking, but.
Yeah, get dunking. There you go. So, and you guys just dunked this week. And so tell us a little bit about the process of
every campaign is a den mother, and I was willing to play that part for these young people who it was, for many of them, it was their first campaign, although David Ox had run for I think city council before in Ardsley. But yeah, so what happened was pretty crazy because I think that the thing is that we have to be really ready and willing to encourage each other, because sometimes you're just having a bad, I got an email from someone today saying, oh, this is our worst fundraising week ever. And it's like, meanwhile, it's like the biggest fundraising week ever for like Mike Revell and for Shahid Buttar, who's running against Nancy Pelosi. And there are ups and downs in this stuff, and sometimes I'm lucky that I work with multiple candidates. I was a volunteer for Mike Revell. I probably put maybe low hundreds of hours into the campaign since April, because it's a very enthralling thing to run a candidate for president. If you think that you've got high before, try running a presidential campaign online and see what that feels like. These kids, too young to drink, but they've experienced one of the biggest rushes, possible, at least in American politics. Mm-hmm. And probably next, someone will be like going out to fight with the Peshmerga or something. We'll see. What was the last week like? Yeah.
We had allies. You had Marianne Williamson step in.
Right. So Marianne Williamson emailed it on the 7th. Yeah. Well, see, that was the thing that really confused me about what the teams were saying on the Twitter thread on the 7th, because it looked like the campaign was winding down. And I think it might have been the Washington Examiner or some other rag that reported that they were shutting down. And the problem is they're just very good planners. And they're thinking, okay, well, if we get into the debates or we don't get into the debates, we don't plan to stay in this thing forever. Let's start figuring out what we're going to do next. And so not only were they tweeting about giving away the money, they were starting to plan for the successor organization. I'm like, guys, any mental energy right now, any written thing, like my, repetitive stress in my hands is just, insanely severe right now. They're probably like swollen up to the elbow.
Yeah.
And it's because every ounce of energy I put into getting people to donate a fucking dollar bill, Yeah. And we got something like 20,000 plus donations in a week, and about 20,000 donors. And I think that part of it was when Williamson sent out the email, it was a nice bump, but it wasn't nearly as large as they thought it would be. And I knew from doing campaigns that it was actually a good bump, and that you never get, when you send out an email, maybe 20% of your list opens it, and maybe 2% of those people take action. So it was actually like, say, getting an extra 1,000 donors was a big deal. But it wasn't.
That's how a Gravalanche starts, right? With a little,
yeah. That's how a Gravalanche starts, with little pebbles.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was like, guys, don't do this. Like, you've got to keep going. Like, this is like the momentum week. And they did, and we all did, and obviously everybody did, and it worked. People in politics, this is a really important thing for progressives to understand, is that deadline is really important. And for folks who get really shitty emails, political emails that are always like false urgency, that's because urgency works, right?
Right.
There's a firm called Mothership that ran John Ossoff's campaign digital, and they pay John Ossoff to use the hundreds of thousands of donor emails that they collected, and then they are sending those to everybody and really ruining reality for political donors. And maybe, having 65,000 Act Blue donors for Mike Revell is one way of turning a little bit of a sense of sanity, returning a sense of sanity, because each of those people, 65,000 is a lot of donors, and the average donation being under $420 means that there's a lot of room to do a lot of things. And I think that's why the DNC is going to have to think seriously about whether they really want to exclude this particular movement, especially since it represents left of Sanders, represents anti-war. It's really, a lot of the folks who would have been accused of being Bernie bros on this campaign, fighting really hard. And, it's politics is weird. If they put Mike Revell on stage, things go back to being a little bit more quiet. If they don't put him on stage, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure that you got some credit for your part in what happened this week. I really saw you making a lot of connections, engaging Nicole Sandler, getting people to re-engage. If nothing else, a whole lot more people know about Mike Revell this week, and will be interested, if he doesn't get on the debate stage, at what he has to say about what does happen on the debate stage.
Well, next I'm going to help Shahid Buttar defeat Nancy Pelosi. So
there
that'll
you
be
go.
Bigger.
That'll be that we will love you to death.
Just out of curiosity, before we talk about Bernie, what has gone on? I mean, how is Shahid's campaign doing?
Very, very well. As viewers of this fine station will remember, I worked with Stephen Jaffe in 2017, and unfortunately, Stephen had a lot of good intent and good policies, but just couldn't carry the torch. And Shahid got into the race late. I was unable to work for him because I'd written Stephen's campaign plan, and it would have been a little bit ludicrous.
Yeah.
But I did, support him a little bit, and he ended up running, a 3-month campaign that actually came in first of the Democrats who weren't Nancy Pelosi, but very slightly behind a Republican. And we have top 2 primaries in California. So if Shahid can win the primary, he can come in second there, a strong second, then he could go on to defeat Nancy Pelosi. And the interesting thing is our primaries had moved up, and people thought that was going to help Kamala Harris, but it's actually going to help campaigns like Bernie Sanders, which is very well organized in the grassroots and has an early start, and also has all of that infrastructure he built in terms of support in 2016. Similar for Shahid, he's one of the few candidates, particularly candidates who are credible. He might be the only one who is running twice in a row. And so he has a lot of the infrastructure and momentum that he built in literally in 2018.
Yeah.
And here we are a year later, and his campaign is in a much stronger position. He already has about 2,500 donors, which for a progressive House race against Nancy Pelosi is huge. And it's just going really well. And his is an example of what happens when you have a good candidate and a Nancy Pelosi as your foil.
Yeah.
He has just a great background. Also, he has a background as a fundraiser. He ran a nonprofit. That's very different. The biggest challenge with progressive candidates, and I've worked with a lot now, is that they don't really know how to raise money typically. And so having someone who knows how to raise money and who has the experience of having run for Congress now, for the second time, very advantageous. And it's going, Shahid told me last week that he woke up and he was journaling, and he was like, for the first time since he started, going, oh my God, we could do this. We could do this. And so the projections are very, very solid. You just get, 10 or 20 organizers who are paid $15 an hour to knock on doors all day long.
Yeah.
And a nice digital operation to fund those organizers through small donations from across the country. And Nancy Pelosi is eminently, beatable.
Yeah, and his ground game has been strong. If there's an active activity or an event going on in San Francisco, he's there,
right?
With the crew, and the energy.
Right, and there are pictures of him protesting Bush, and the wars, and he's just has an activist background and a professional background that is actually rare among any congressional candidates, let alone one brave enough to challenge the Pelosi machine.
Yeah, he's organized and he's focused, and he's got a good crew around him.
I was gonna say he's got some pretty goddamn good people in his volunteer crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, he does. Thank you, John.
and it's actually what I mean by that isn't to props on anybody in particular, but it really is. It seems to be a cohesive group. We're getting more organized daily, and things are getting accomplished. And it's like a mini version of what I see in the Bernie Slack, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesomeness.
It's also great that Bernie, has the Bernie grassroots have trained so many people how to do politics. So 2018 was much better than 2016, and 2020 will be much better than 2018 for progressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of Bernie Sanders, I wanted to talk about him a little bit, tying in here his big, just massive developments in his ground game this week. I think first I want to talk about his anti-endorsement list, which we got a big kick out of and has gotten a lot of press. The quote I put here, "Judge me by the enemies I have made." And John, I know this was something you made the cover card about. Was there a particular aspect of this that you liked, or?
Well, I wanted to get my take on it is this is a brilliant political move. I don't know if anybody else has done it, but it's like and look, those aren't my words. There's every other indie journalist of stature has already covered this and been like, holy shit, look at this, right? Adriel, what do you think? Is this not a brilliant move?
Oh, no, it's great. Because I think that FDR, I welcome their hatred is actually an iconic moment in left politics in America that has stuck with us for generations. And so for Bernie to summon that, I think is great. I think it really brings back his, the power of tying a political revolution into what Wall Street has done in America, how Wall Street Democrats bailed out the banks and left everyone else suffering in the mortgage crisis, how many of us lost our homes or our parents lost their homes. And it's just amazing to see Lloyd Blankenship, tweeting shit at Bernie Sanders. Like, what a fool, These people are so dumb. They're like lining themselves up for the guillotine.
Yeah.
And they don't
Bernie
even know
clapped back on him well, though. Did he not? He had a...
he did have a good tweet on that. He had
the receipts, and then he said, "Oh, sorry, I must have the wrong person here." And then the receipts of blank fine, actually talking about
blank fine. Thank you.
Entitlements is what he called them, but we know what he means.
Yeah. Just.
I've got a list. Okay, you've got it up there in case people haven't heard who the anti-endorsements include. At the top of the list, we have Home Depot co-founders Kenneth Langone and Bernie Marcus. We have Disney CEO Bob Iger, who Bernie was, clashed with over worker pay. J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, whom Sanders zeroed in on last month as among the prime beneficiaries of corporate socialism. Love that. Of course, Goldman Sachs chief Lloyd Blankfein, Galen Greenspan, former Federal Reserve chairman.
Third Way,
a centrist group whose leaders have denounced Sanders' platform, dismissing it as outside the mainstream. So
and then Haim Saban, who's like the Power Rangers producer.
Right. Right. So did they add him? He wasn't. I thought wasn't in this first one, but he's. He probably
wasn't. It was very fresh.
But then he's.
I'm gonna jump in.
I liked it that he said, "I like every Democrat but Bernie Sanders."
Right.
Carl doesn't like you, buddy.
That's actually a step up because he's actually calling Bernie a Democrat, because most of them won't even acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for that. Yeah, I thought it was wonderful. It was very nice.
Okay.
And
then I had delete the next slide. I combined the two. So slide 9 is the only one.
Oh.
The other thing that I want to talk about was Bernie was on Rachel Maddow this week.
Yes,
and he was actually on MSNBC also on Tuesday, and and he had a couple other Q&A things that he launched, as well as their new chat show on Bernie's YouTube, The 99, which has got David Sirota, Joshua Miller, and Sarah Ford, who are on to talk about that. And they just kind of quietly launched that. They were talking about Bernie's anti-endorsements. It really is. They're doing it kind of low key. They use the same set that Bree Joy uses for her podcasts and her interviews.
Oh, wow.
So all these just nice layers of grassroots. But for me, I was really wondering how it would go on Rachel, if she would be doing her zingers or her concerned or whatever. But I was impressed. I thought that she was very smooth and calm, and she let him speak, and he came across very well. And I counted it as a minor victory that my parents, who love to watch Rachel Maddow every night, mentioned to me, "Oh, we saw Bernie on Rachel. He looked really good," because they're in their 80s and they're concerned that he's too old.
Right.
So there were several different clips I could have picked, but I think I chose the one. Hopefully we won't get dinged for this, because they have been making it really tough on folks to broadcast this interview, which tells you how good it was.
Yeah.
But her last question about age, I thought, was a good way to end the interview. And if you've got that.
Yeah, we're ready to go. And before I run it, though, I want to tell everybody, here's a clip. So, yeah, Laura's right. We could probably get dinged for this. They've been trying to blank this out. They don't want people watching this stuff because Bernie really kicked ass. But I want to say thank you to Dentony McCartney for the donation first thing this morning. And hi to all 57 of you watching live, because that's just a huge ratings bump for us. Welcome, all of you. And here's Rachel. It's Bernie, really.
We're back with Vermont Senator and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Senator, thank you again for sticking with us. I have a last question for you, and it is a little bit of a sticky wicket, and I do not want you to be annoyed with me for asking. But it is the thing, when I talk to people about having you on the show today, it was the number one thing that a lot of people wanted me to ask you about, which was the issue raised by Eric Swalwell, who has now dropped out of the race for president. In the debate, when he directed it to Vice President Biden, and his refrain was "pass the torch." That you've had your chance, you've been in politics for a long time, and we need younger leadership, basically making an overt age argument for why Vice President Biden shouldn't be the nominee, and implicitly why you shouldn't be the nominee. You called that ageist after the debate, but I wonder how you grapple with the substance of that argument.
You know, if you look at history, there were arguments why black people shouldn't be president, why women shouldn't be president. I think you have to look at the totality of the person. There are some people who are 90 who are a lot more active and energetic than people who are 50. You have to look at what somebody believes, what somebody is fighting for, what their experience is about. Just to look at age is, I think, missing the boat in a very, very deep way.
But he's talking about length of experience in the political system. I mean, you've been in public office since before Eric Swalwell was born. I mean, he's saying people who have been in the system, have been trying all this time to make change, need to get out of the way so that new voices can rise.
And what is those people's position? Do they believe in Medicare for all? Have they fought to raise the minimum wage? Have they been a leader in tackling the issues of climate change? Have they been on picket lines their whole lives standing with working people, been active in the women's movement, active in the gay movement? In other words, it's just not good enough to say, hey, I'm young, pass me the torch. You got to tell me what you stand for, what your vision of America is. And I think that is just not a satisfactory explanation.
Senator Sanders, it's great to have you here.
Good to be with you.
Come back soon.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Huh?
Okay. Are we still here? I think we're still here.
So far, it may take them a while to catch it, but Yeah, that was a great answer, and you're right. She was calm.
Good, and I was relieved. I was watching it via Twitter because we were actually doing our own interview that night. But I just watching the hashtag, and it was like just so overwhelmingly positive, and people were like, "He's nailed it," and a few trolls saying, "Oh, he's an old man." But for the most part, I think he did well, and he reached a new segment of audience that night. I think
he's certainly brighter and more spry than Joe Biden.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't want to be ageist, but Joe Biden looks like he should be at the Bahamas, not
right.
Yeah.
Why can't we bring up the one? Let's talk about your actual physical health, right? Bernie was trying to say that, right? I mean, Bernie's running up and down escalators.
And your mental acuity. I mean, I want a president who's really on. We're really suffering from that right now with some, clearly senile and racist president.
Drug induced, or
probably
insane.
He's probably using methamphetamines like the Nazis.
Didn't somebody in his camp or in his group acknowledge that he was crushing and snorting Adderall? But I have no idea if that was confirmed.
Would also explain it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our current president. But we don't care about that kind of stuff anymore. We've gone far beyond that.
Yeah.
That stuff. Do you want to talk about this real quick before Amos does his piece? Is that?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that the next debates are coming up. It has been a topic of our conversation, and that we are going to be doing our same commentary on the debates. We'll do a parallel stream unless we feel cheeky and want to try and run something. We'll let you know, but the date we're going to do both nights with our same group: John Graziano, Tina Berg, Pat Cody. Hopefully Jose Caballero will be able to join us. Maybe Shahid. So, we'll be doing that. I just wanted to tell everybody to watch with us if you can.
And we'll stream the debate this time. It seems like we can. We'll find out, I guess. Why not?
We'll give it a try, and we'll have our backup, channel going.
I'm glad you like the card, Melissa. Thank you to Jimmy Sunderland, who worked very hard on this card. And this is not the right one. I got to take one of the Dow wine bottles out because this is for round one of the second group of debates because there's so many frickin' people.
I got the second in there.
Oh, you know what, Jamie? Jimmy's gonna have to redo this. She's got to put Revell in there.
Yeah, we need to get the lineup description, and then she can either do it all in one or do the night one, night two.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting few days because they probably will try to announce the lineup on the 17th. So
wow,
that's very soon.
That is very soon.
That's why we had to hit the deadline.
Wow. And you had days to spare, but even
we had
so,
days to spare.
Yeah,
the days to spare so that we can get Tom Perez on the phone and
start working it.
Yeah. That's just gonna mute it. They just got mic control on that the whole time, Mm-hmm. They're gonna. And if they do, I hope they raise holy hell because it's gonna
start waving that cane around and nobody.
Well, I mean, we're starting to think if they exclude us, it's actually more fun because we can then do some real damage instead of just having Mike, get 4 minutes of airtime.
Yep,
that is a good point to that.
It's a win-win, really.
Yeah.
But we had to qualify. There's no argument for getting into the debates if you don't qualify that holds water with the mainstream media orgs that we need to follow what comes next.
Right.
Because we got to break out of the woke progressive community and get some CNN and Fox and MSNBC viewers to realize that, hey, maybe, no wars is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Just maybe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Adriel. And happy birthday. Enjoy your day and enjoy your success with the Revell campaign.
You can hang out, or you can, if you've got birthday plans.
I think I hear a baby. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, you can redo shots. Our weekly pitch for connecting with Bernie, app.berniesanders.com, map.berniesanders.com. The Bernie Slack is kicking ass. They've got help with doing canvassing, planning events. There'll be debate watch parties again that will be planned, that will be coming up within the next week or so for organizing. But it is really interesting to watch things go on the inside. So if you want to be in that, you can always I think volunteers at berniesanders.org is the first place to start. But go to the app or the map. They all are connected. But they're hiring. They're opening field offices in states all over. I know they're looking for people in California. So that's a good place to know where they're hiring staff, and they're actually, paying people. So if you are one of those people that's lucky enough to have the time to do it, I highly recommend checking that out.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing that, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
How's everybody doing in the audience? Thank you for being here. 56.
Yeah.
Nice to have you. Hey, Mark Burns. Melissa H. That's a good discussion. That's good to have Adriel back in about that stuff. It's exciting. That stuff's
I was just really impressed. I was just watching the energy go and the excitement, and when they were, and just the teens are so fired up, and they really kind of were ramping down, and Adriel ramped them back up, and I just wanted to make sure that he got some credit for that.
That's true. Congratulations. Yeah. Amos, you're going to talk to us about extinctions, right? Mass die-offs.
Mass die-offs. Actually, I was going to do a story about these prey birds that were dying off in Oregon.
The eagles, right?
Getting paralyzed. Yeah, they were just all of a sudden they would just become limp, and you could carry them, and their head would like fall to the side, and they would just not be able to do anything. And die as a result. They were trying to save some of those. And then John, you told me, well, why don't we do something about mass die-offs? And I looked into it, and I got hit over the head with that just the extent of that problem. I wasn't even aware. I knew about some of those die-offs. I've heard news here and there, but then I found currently there's a list that's being compiled by the End of Days Prophecy site, which is kind of like a Christian site, and they see the destruction of the planet as the the manifestation of the prophecy.
Yeah, I would too if I were a Christian. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, but they did a great job of keeping track of all these documented die-offs. And in 2019, there's been so far till now, there's been 231 mass die-offs.
Jesus.
And I compiled a list. I put a list of that on my site. There's going to be a link in the description.
Okay.
And some of these things are just astounding, and we have not heard from them. 3 million pigs were killed in end of June from swine fever in 16 provinces in Vietnam. Tons, many dozens of tons of fish being washed off different places. There's been bee die-offs. There's been all kinds of stuff. So just the sheer volume of that just dumbfounded me and really depressed me. So just as an example, here's I wanted to just pick up one of those examples, and that's the bee die-off. So in Brazil this year, about 400 million bees were recorded to have died in a span of 3 months. Entire colonies of these bees were wiped off. And they did some research. They found that they're using cocktails of pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides with hundreds of ingredients. Nobody can track or figure out which is responsible for what, or what the correlation is. Apparently, the fungicide by itself does not harm the bees so much as when it's combined with some of the other ingredients. And it's affected those colonies in two ways. Some of them are just die off very rapidly. In 24 to 48 hours, entire colonies gone. And in some cases, there's this lethargic state that the bees get into from these, apparently from these fungicides. They just stop working, and then the colony collapses out of starvation. So that's in Brazil. In the U.S., the researchers of the University of Maryland have reported that about 40% of U.S. honeybee colonies died between October 2018 and April 2019. So recently, wow. It's the highest winter die-off that's recorded in 18 years. So, and this thing is happening at a very high rate all over the world. I looked at the number of documented events that took place. So in 2011, 142 such mass-offs were reported in the media. In 2012, it went up to 474. 2013, it went up to 820. 2014, 651. 2015, 837. And 2016, like 560. 2017, 450. It went a little down. 2018, it went to 294. And if this year, if the projection is right, we're going to probably reach around 460 or so mass die-offs. And that's frightening because these are cataclysmic events like the fox bat die-off from the heat, or in Australia that recently happened, or puffins in the North Sea dying of starvation because they are not able. The water in the Bering passages has warmed up to the point where it's affecting their feed. So they don't have enough food. They have to spend much more energy in hunting, and they just exhaust themselves and just die. So very, very disturbing.
It is, and you know, it's not like we don't have mass die-offs that we know they happen, right? We know that they happen in nature all the time, but when they're being caused by the climate crisis, when we're the ones who's bringing them about, and that's what we're seeing more and more, right? And that's what's frightening. I mean, the whales. What is the number of whales that have washed up on the shore full of plastic? Right? That's not a die-off. That's a canary in a coal mine. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
the problem is also that it's a complicated relation between all kinds of various factors. It's not just global warming or just one thing or chemical. It's like an onslaught of all of these different things that we've just completely neglected and not taken seriously up till now, that are now like getting to this critical state.
Exactly.
And the media, we hear those news every now and then. Even I haven't heard a lot of these on that list. I encourage you to look at that list. But what do you hear? You open CNN and you hear how many times Trump washes his hands in a day, and whether Meghan Markle is holding her baby right.
Right. They don't talk about anything actually going on that matters.
And it's not like there's lacking news.
No, you could have a whole channel dedicated to the climate crisis, and we should.
Yeah.
Just talking about what's going on with our planet. We should have one of those. So, all right. Yeah, that's depressing news. Thank you so much for reporting on that, Amish. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of die-ops going on.
Now it's your turn, John.
Oh, yeah. I suppose. Well, thank you, everyone.
For watching. Go for it.
We still running? We haven't gotten shut down. All right.
Still running.
All right. So whoever's left, we'll talk about something I'm proud of. And that is that our Bernie TV Twitter account is in Twitter jail at the moment, and it's all my fault for doing that. It's hang on a second. Put me in the shot here. I did this because I tweeted something saying that ICE doesn't follow laws. This is based on the fact that they're abusing, raping, torturing, murdering innocent people that are being stuck in cages. That's violating a whole bunch of like human rights laws and UN stuff and everything right there. Then Congress gave them a bunch of money, which Nancy Pelosi helped make sure happen. And in that, Congress was like, now promise us you're not going to use this money to build new facilities. No more new facilities. ICE built is ordered 3 new facilities built. All right. So like, they don't give a fuck about the law. They don't give a fuck about what Congress says. AOC went into one of the centers and they were laughing at her. Right? Pence just recently went into. So I tweeted, remember, ICE Gov is already ignoring Congress and just doing as they please, like German Gestapo. With citizens, I suggest we do the same. If you see ICE in your agent in your town, ignore the law and take them out. Do damage, fight, attack them. They are Nazis. All right? At some point, I think human beings have to realize, or these citizens of the United States, we're the ones dealing with the fucking Nazi problem right now. We're not going to hug our way out of this. In my view, even if the best of intentions happen, Bernie wins the election, all right? And somehow they let him actually ascend to power. Do you really think ICE and ICE agents are going to stop doing what they do? They've laughed at Congress. They don't give a shit what Congress has to say. Do you think Trump is going to leave office? I don't think he's going to leave office. Just to tack on to that. So anyway, we're in Twitter jail for the day because I said that. And what my statement to Jack and Twitter is, my words didn't murder, rape, or kill anybody. ICE has done that every day, and you let them have a Twitter account. So, and I realized they didn't tweet any of those things, which is why you don't care. The Border Patrol chief, Carla Provost, was a member of the secret Facebook group that they discovered, right? The Intercept uncovered this. Whoever it was uncovered it wasn't the Intercept, but the Intercept is reporting on this. I think it was the Miami, I don't know who it was. Somebody was a local United States reporter on it. So half of the agents in CBP are Nazi racist assholes and a member of this group, including the chief. All right. So if you want to know really what ICE thinks and how they feel, at least half of them are proud to be racist Nazis. That's a problem, right? Here's just a recent piece on another Border Patrol agent punished sexually assaulted children at Yuma Detention Center. This is not a rare story. We've seen numerous stories come out about children being raped and tortured and drugged and these agents being slapped on the wrist and being sent to a new facility, right? This is a humanitarian crisis. If this were another country doing these things, we would have invaded them and bombed them for their resources by now. So I don't know what America's waiting for. I don't know why America thinks we're going to vote this out. We have armed, militant, badge-wearing, tax-paid assholes, Nazis, running facilities, raping children, and Nancy Pelosi is working deals with the administration. Here's one of the lead Nazis. I don't know if you've seen this picture, but you should go look at some history books and look at pictures of the German Nazis when they were at their places. They look very much like this. They look like they're looking at a bunch of fucking cargo. They don't acknowledge the people in these cages as being actual human beings. It's just like, this is a problem. We've got a storage problem. You know what comes next? Mass death. Mass death comes next. The Nazis didn't start killing people en masse right away. They warehoused them, and then they went, shit, we're going to run out of space. What do we do now? ICE is right there. Right there. And they're not waiting. They're just, 24 of them. I had to look up and see how many other people have died in ICE custody. So I went and found this deaths per 100,000 detainees by year. First of all, the fact that this table even fucking exists means there's a sick problem with the United States. We really should just rise above that and go, we're a sick, fucked up nation, and I hope we raise the whole fucking place and start fresh. Because this is gross and disgusting that we would even have this list. 2004 apparently was a banger year, like 12 people per 100,000 detainees die. 2018 was low, 2.3. 24 immigrants have died in ICE custody during the Trump administration. I think a majority of those in 2019. And what we have, like 50,000, 60,000 sitting in detention centers. doesn't that blow the fucking doors off the statistical history here? Doesn't that indicate a big, huge fucking problem that we should be rising up, forming our own militias, finding the nearest ICE facility, and attacking the motherfucker right now? This is the point in history where the German people failed. So if we wait for votes, and then after we vote, and our government doesn't give a fuck, and we keep waiting, ICE is going to be at my door. We're going to be at the end of that fucking poem from World War II that everybody loves to recite, but nobody fucking does anything about. So I'm going to keep landing my Twitter account in jail and getting ready to fight Nazis in my town, because this is where we're supposed to differ from history. Remember what Mike Revell said? What we learn from history is what we don't learn from history. What we need to learn right fucking now is Germany waited too long to act, to rise up in the fucking streets and attack the motherfucking Nazis before they controlled everything. Our government is inept. It has completely failed. Nancy Pelosi is a fucking Nazi sympathizer. And I believe personally, in my view, it is time we start forming militias in our towns and thinking about how we are going to face the Nazis coming to take us. That is where we are at. That is what I believe. You can think I've gone 100% Alex Jones. I'm just looking at history, everybody. And what I really am is a zealot. I love this word because I used to just tie it to religion because I'm a ex-Catholic. I fucking despise the cult religion. But it's a good word, because a zealot really is a person who is fanatical and uncompromising in pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. The climate crisis and the Nazi problem, I will be relentless and uncompromising in the fact that we have to end the Nazis in order to save the species. That's a big problem. So we really didn't even have time to do the climate crisis. And now we have to deal with fucking Nazis. So I just ask everybody, I'm not saying I don't want to do it the Bernie Love way. I'm not saying I don't want votes to work and I don't want democracy to work. But take a look at where we're at. Take a look at history and ask yourself if you think we're really going to hug this out with ICE. I don't think they're going to give up power. I don't think the Trump administration is going to give up power. And I don't think the DNC gives a fuck. I don't think they give a fuck. All right. So that's my depressing statement on that. Lastly, if you haven't been paying attention to Tropical Storm, now Category 1 Hurricane Barry.
Yeah, right?
Let me just show you some stats on where the climate crisis is at in the United States, because this is fucking big. All right. The Mississippi River has been, and this is several days old, so the Mississippi River has been at flood stage for more than half a year, which blows the fucking doors off the previous record. And there's no signs of this stopping. We're going to get through hurricane season and into winter. I bet you this doesn't go below flood stage. Okay. So we got all this water up here. Mm-hmm. We have Barry down here. Mm-hmm. Barry's going to bring 2 feet of rain, just rain. Mm-hmm. Then storm surge with the Mississippi coming down this way. And New Orleans is a bowl. Mm-hmm. Where's this all going to fucking go? Right? They're facing catastrophic storm surge and damage right now. So I just wanted to show everybody.
Feet of water in Katrina, right? That was.
What did you say?
During Katrina, I think people were saying that they were like 25 feet underwater. I think that New Orleans is just going to fill up.
Yeah, that's pretty frightening. What's going on?
It's flooded already. Barry hasn't even arrived yet, and it's already flooded. They're starting at a huge deficit already. It's not like sandbags aren't going to do it.
No, they're already. Yeah, it's pretty frightening. And okay, and just an aside. So if you can see, and just got to show you guys. If you can, we've had a banner growing here, but if you can see in the picture, that's me in the background taking the picture. But behind that is a geranium growing in one of our windows. And I just wanted to show you this geranium because it's fucking crazy. That's the geranium. Take a look at that thing. Right? It's grown a branch all the way up the window there. Does anybody else have a geranium that's done crazy shit like that? I mean, normally they just sit kind of quiet in a pot. That is an ambitious geranium. I just wanted to show you that. It's a Bernanium.
Nice geranium.
I just
special food, haven't you?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to show you that. All right. Lastly, see how quickly I'm beyond the depressing Nazi stuff.
Yes.
Lastly, Live Aid was 34 years ago today, and I don't think anybody would have given a fuck about 34 years ago if it weren't for the Bohemian Rhapsody documentary that was just released, right? That brought Queen back into prominence.
Many of you probably, this crowd, you probably were around for that.
Yeah, how many of you remember?
Where were you?
When
you watched Live Aid? When you
watched Live Aid. Were you working? Were you at home? I was 15, and me and my friends all got together, and we watched this all fucking day, and it was really fucking cool. I will tell you that, because we were excited about this. The big thing about this was that it was both stadiums, so Wembley and JFK, all right, were fucking filled with people, 80,000, 100,000 people, and they were coordinated. So one band would go in JFK, and then a band would go over in the UK, and then a band would go in JFK. And that was fucking huge for 1985. Today, you're like, so what? They did a Zoom call. No. This was like big, back then. And and everybody that played, and it was amazing. It was incredible. It's a great time. They're talking about her. I know that Brian May from Queen has made rumor of we should do another one for the climate. So that would be cool. That would be really cool to do that. I think they should, and they should have Rami Malek, whatever his guy's name is, the guy who played, he should sing for that. Queen should get up there and he should sing for them. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because it's something a little more exciting. Lastly, a pitch for this. I know we're going to go over shows coming up, but I really want to throw this out because we're going to end with the trailer for this. I have a conversation coming up on Friday with this guy. He's an actual real hero, like an action hero, Ken Ward. And he lives in Oregon, and I had a conversation with him, and he's the real deal. Where I like to scream and shout about what we need to do, he just goes out and does it, right? He's not afraid to be arrested. And he's not afraid to face the police and face authorities. And he literally walked onto a facility and shut down a fucking pipeline. And he faced felony charges, and he would again if he did it. He's done other things since then. He's a member of XR Portland, and we're going to talk to him on Friday, and we're going to watch the trailer clip with him. And what I'm going to try to do is get a screening so that I purchased the film, but I want to try to do a private screening with maybe us, get permission to do that, and then have Ken maybe join us for a conversation with that. But right now, we're going to talk to him about it on Friday. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what happened in Oregon with HB 2020 and what direct action means to him and how we use it to fight the climate crisis and where he sees things, right? So I just wanted to plug that. Very excited about talking to Ken. He's a real life fucking action hero. So there, that's it. All right. Shit.
Well, do we want to talk a bit about our own shows?
Upcoming shows, right? So,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's next.
Just leave Amos in here because I'd have to fix the shot. So, campaign finance reform. That was a cool conversation with Patrick Starnes and what's going on there, and the governor working with Patrick on some stuff. They've moved it forward, but it's nowhere near complete, and so we'll see what happens. And Audrey Denny, your thoughts and feelings on Audrey, Laura?
It was really nice to meet her. She is in a interesting district in the northeast part of California, very rural. Grew up there, really knows her stuff. It'll be interesting to see how well she does in the rather red district. And we're going to be following her campaign pretty closely.
We'll see. I felt like she's a Warren Dem, so we'll see.
Oh, I think I got that impression as well.
And I'm not saying that's a horrible thing, but it's no Bernie Dem.
No.
I mean, it's like progressive light. So we'll see.
But for her, where she's running to identify too closely with the real progressives is kiss of death for her campaign, as she told us. So we have to be sensitive to that. She needs to. At this point in that district, pick a more moderate lane, and I think that's what she's done.
It's a decision of strategy, and I disagree with it. But I'm not a fucking campaign strategist, so you know what I mean. I would go a different route, but that's just me. Anyway.
But then we also had Peter Khalil on.
And I give him 100% progressive stamp of approval.
He was terrific, and we'll definitely be talking with him. Very interesting interview. And guys, we have all the links to these are on the channel and in the description. But please,
I didn't put anything in the description. There's nothing in the description.
But yeah, I know you.
I'll put them in later. They're all just go to the homepage of the channel. There's a lot of stuff. There's a whole. There's like 6 events backed up. Okay, now 5 now because of this one. But that's I did a lot of work.
And we do have a We the People next week. In addition to your interview with Ken Ward, we're going to be meeting Dan Whitfield, who is running against Tom Cotton for Senate in Arkansas.
Nobody likes Tom Cotton.
Nobody likes Tom Cotton. So that will be so we haven't had a whole lot of people from the South on the show, at least this season. So it'll be interesting to talk to him about what he's up against in his race.
Right. Okay, that's not fair. Arms dealers like Tom Cotton. Sorry.
Well, yeah. And Tom's Cotton mother probably likes him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good. All right. And then back to Ken. Right? Ken.
Yep. Yep. We got Ken.
We have stuff. Are you wearing a Bernie shirt? You are wearing a Bernie shirt.
I'm wearing one of the Not Me Us ones.
There you are. Isn't that nice? We have those on the site, everybody.
Yes. And thanks again to Hank's Fingers, who helped us to get these designed and up on our site in one evening back in April.
Yep. OregonforBernie.org. Also go there. Larry Taylor's been working really hard on that site, and he's got a lot of links to GoFundMes to fund various things in Oregon for the signs. We just had a sign stolen that was placed in Seaside, one of the big signs, the 4x8. And we're going to replace it with 3 signs. And if somebody tries to steal those, we're going to replace it with 10. And I think the owner is going to hang out with like a shotgun and wait. He's pretty crazy. But we'll, hopefully we'll see. But you can donate for those, for the bumper stickers. And there's also, we need a whole bunch of money donated to get our delegates, our Bernie delegates to the thing, because it actually costs like $3,300 or something like that per delegate. It's pretty expensive. Excuse me. So that's that. Pledge of Allegiance.
That was last week.
Yeah, all right, that was last week.
So you've got tomorrow. You've got the campaign finance reform. Tomorrow's
something different. Tomorrow is.
It's Brian. I made one for Brian.
Yeah, we didn't. Where is the Brian?
Oh, you know what? I did it in the rundown. I didn't do a slide for it. Brian,
excuse me.
Activist, says artist, I believe, is the.
Yes. Sorry about that. We've talked a bit. I mean, they were just talking about those signs, the big signs. So Brian Heath, you've seen his work. He traveled across the country in 2016 for Bernie, making these signs. Larry's going to be talking to him tomorrow about the signs that we've made so far, like the one that's in front of my house. And he's going to be talking to Brian. So it'll be a great show to find out more about him. And he's a good talker, so he will say a lot. He's got some great stories from traveling across the campaign and all that stuff. And ways
we had a sign vandalized last week.
That's what I'm talking about. Stolen.
Yeah, stolen. Right. Gone.
So yeah, it'll be a good conversation. Join us for that. And thank you all for being here. That's Amos. Thank you too. There, put this up. I don't know why I got Steve Cox with here. We'll end with this. There. We're gonna go out with. Thank you all. Thank you all for being still 47.
You're muted, Amos.
Are you talking?
Yeah, sorry. Before you go out, there's something cool. I found out that there is a sign language sign for Bernie emerging, and I'm probably doing this wrong, but it's
hang on.
It's like this, and then
nice
sign of fire and inspiration.
Nice.
Like feel the burn? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Like
exactly.
Heart on fire. I like that.
Exactly. And you know what Donald Trump says?
Did you please?
Go ahead. Please tell us.
I like that. Very simple.
Is that an overcome flap?
The overcome flap. Exactly. I like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really what they're using. One more thing, I just wanted to say that I personally, I think that we should prepare for things to get worse, and I'm certainly very concerned about ICE and Border Patrol actions and the way things are going. But I would not encourage anyone to take action, like violent action, at this point. But
get involved with XR.
We have to be trained. We have to figure out, just like the far right is prepared for the event of anything, we should consider that.
Well, I mean, an XR is the first step. And we'll talk about that with Ken, right? Extinction Rebellion, because they do nonviolent direct action. And I want to talk to him about that fine line between nonviolence and direct action, right? Because there is destruction of property involved in some cases. So, we'll talk about that and what it means. And that really is the next step, is getting trained on how to handle yourself in a situation like that. And then goes militia, right? But the right has militias ready to go. I'm surrounded by them here, right? And it's a little more evident to me living in a rural area, I guess. So I'm a little more freaked out about it than maybe other people would be in an urban area, but it frightens me a lot. And
it's interesting. It made me think about. I met someone about a year ago whose job was, he was like in the Army Reserve, and his job was going to areas in the country that needed some, it might need an extra, National Reserve office or camp or whatever. And he was very busy. And I'm wondering if really what his job wasn't doing was setting up some of these detention camps and militia things that we've been seeing. And that's horrifying to think that they're actively setting up these all over the country.
It is. It's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, when an agency just says to Congress, fuck you, and builds 3 new facilities, that's a big sign, right? Anyway, let's be safe and be prepared. That sounds like fucking Boy Scouts, but you know what I mean. It's a good line, even though it's a crappy group. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're going out with the full trailer. This is the trailer from for the movie The Reluctant Radical, which is available on a bunch of different platforms, and it's just an hour and 20-minute documentary about what Ken did, and I want you to watch this because it's pretty powerful. All right. So thank you all for being here, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, it was supposed to start, for fuck's sake. Here.
I was going, hey, wait a minute. The world's in collapse here, and we're not doing anything about it. And people were like, oh, yeah, that's a problem. And there was a sense of utter disconnected in realities.
Climate change is just dealt with as if it was any other discrete environmental issue. For years, we said we can solve this if everyone would just put the right light bulbs and buy a Prius. Liven your morning up, maybe. What we really needed to be doing was, from the very beginning, raising hell. All right, under arrest. 8 hours of community service, and then they'll dismiss, as if they had never been filed, the charges. In theory, I could just show up and do this every 2 weeks or so if I wanted. Woke up at 2:30 in the morning thinking, why am I doing this? Nobody's gonna care, nobody's gonna notice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Coast Guard boats. If you've done all the legal available methods and they don't work, then the only thing that you have left is put your body in the way.
I feel a large amount of pride for stuff my dad does, because save the world and all that.
The odds are vanishingly small, but that's no excuse for not figuring out what to do next, so.
One man can't do this.
He's speaking to us.
Life is hard for zealots. Some of my heroes in history were zealots. The suffragettes, the abolitionists.
Makes him hard to love, but it also makes him worth loving, I guess.
He's dedicated, he's articulate, he's passionate, and he's guilty.
I'm now showing Exhibit 18 to the jury.
We need moral clarity. We need sides to be drawn. Either you're for burning fossil fuels and ending the world, or you're against it. Which is it?